Welcome back to another life changing episode of Words for the Soul, Food for the Heart. I'm your host, Jackie Wickware, and today we're diving into something bold, something daring, and something that could set you on the course for the life you've been praying for in 2025. Our topic today is Burn the Blueprint. Redesigning your life for 2025. That's right. It's time to stop following the plans that no longer serve you. Stop pursuing paths that don't align with God's purpose for your life. And embrace the new thing God is doing. In Isaiah chapter 43, verse 19, it says, "Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." Now let's start with a powerful question. Why are you still following that old blueprint? Is it because it's familiar? Because it seemed right at the time? Or maybe, just maybe, it's because starting over feels overwhelming. Whatever the reason, today I'm here to remind you that it's okay to burn that old blueprint and design a new one that fits where God is taking you next. Let's talk about it. Why are you still following that old blueprint? Maybe you thought it was the right way to go. Maybe it served you well in the past season, but now it feels like you're carrying baggage from a life you've outgrown. Or perhaps you're on what feels like a wild goose chase, pursuing a plan that isn't even yours. And let's be honest, sometimes we stick to old blueprints because we're afraid of the unknown. It's easier to keep walking a familiar road, even when we know it's leading us nowhere. But let me challenge you today. That old blueprint was never meant to last forever anyhow. What worked then doesn't mean it's meant to work now. God is always calling us to grow, to evolve, and to trust Him in new ways. And here's what I want you to reflect on, simply by asking some questions. Are you holding on to the past because it feels safe? Are you afraid of failure or starting over? Are you pursuing a plan that was never God's will for your life? That same chapter in the book of Isaiah, chapter 43 says, God is making a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. See, that's speaking of moving us around to places that are uncharted, moving us to spaces we've never ventured in. And it means there are new opportunities awaiting you that you have yet to walk and operate in. See, that's a promise, my friends. No matter how uncertain or overwhelming the process feels, God's already prepared the way for you to move forward. You just have to be willing to let go of the old. So how do we recognize when it's time to burn the old blueprint and embrace God's new thing? That same scripture asks the question, do you not perceive it? That question is so profound Sometimes God is doing something new right in front of us, but we're so focused on the past that we miss it. And here are some signs that God just might be leading you into a new season. Do you often feel restless? Do you feel stuck or out of place? That's often God's way of nudging you toward something new. Are doors closing? Sometimes when doors shut on us, they close in our face. It's not rejection, it's redirection. God might be closing one chapter to prepare you for the next chapter. And here's one more question. Have you noticed opportunities aligning with your purpose? Pay attention now to the opportunities that excite you, that stretch you, and align with your gifts. And they may very well be standing right in front of you, but you think they're not yours. But let me give you an example. Imagine trying to wear a coat you've outgrown. At one time, it fit perfectly, but now it's too tight. You can't move freely and it's uncomfortable. That's what it feels like to hold on to an old blueprint that no longer fits who you become. It's time to take it off and put on something new, something tailored to where God is taking you now. Now that we've talked about recognizing God's new thing, let's get practical. How do you burn the old blueprint and redesign your life for 2025? How do we do it? That's the burning question. Number one, evaluate what no longer serves you. Take a hard look at your life. What's holding you back? Is it a relationship? Or is it a mindset? Or maybe a career path? Or even an old dream? Ask yourself, does this bring me joy? Does this serve me now? Does this align with who God is calling me to be in this season? Number two, you can't just guess about these things. In fact, you must get a second opinion. Whose opinion? Seek God's vision for your life. Proverbs 16 verse 9 says, the heart of a man or a woman's plans are their way, but the Lord establishes their steps. So what does that mean? It means spend time in prayer, asking God to reveal God's divine plans for you. And then write down what you hear. Write down the ideas and goals that come to mind. And then number three, after the things in your heart are stirred up and you have consulted God about it all, create a new blueprint from what it is that has been raised up in this time of seeking. This doesn't have to be complicated. Start with one or two goals that align with God's vision for your life, and then break them down into smaller, actionable steps for you to carry out. Number four, let go of fear. Let it go. Stepping into something new can be intimidating, but remember, God doesn't call the equipped. God equips the called. Can I say it again? God doesn't call the equipped. God equips the called. So trust that God has and will provide everything you need. And then listen to this. Delight yourself in the Lord, That's what scripture says. And God will give you the desires of your heart. Psalm 37, verse 40. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want for anything. Psalm 23, verse 1. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28. Here's what I want you to take away from today's episode. You don't have to follow a plan that no longer fits. You don't have to stay stuck in a space that no longer serves you. You don't have to keep forcing yourself into a life that doesn't align with who God is calling you to be. God is doing a new thing, and God is inviting you to trust him as God leads you into something better. God's waiting on you to catch up to where he's already prepared for you and for what he's already prepared for you. See, God is always at work on our behalf. And as Isaiah 43 verse 9 reminds us, even in the wilderness, even in the unknown, even when you feel lost or uncertain, God is working for you. Listen, God is creating paths and opportunities for you to walk into. So let me ask you, what's your next step? Is it finally saying yes to the vision God gave you long ago? Is it walking away from something that's been draining you spiritually, emotionally, or maybe even physically, or financially for that matter? Is it silencing the doubts, the fears, the what ifs, and stepping into the new with boldness? Whatever it is, I need you to hear me. Why? Why do I need you to hear me today? Because God is always up to something new. And it's time to move. It's time to act. It's time to burn the old and build the new. No more hesitation. No more excuses. No more waiting for the right time. The time is right now. Because let me tell you something. The enemy would love for you to stay stuck. The enemy would love for you to keep delaying. The enemy would love for you to keep talking about the change without actually making it. But you're not called to be stagnant. You're called to be bold. You're called to be faith-filled. You are called to be a trailblazer in your own life. So whatever fear has been keeping you bound, drop it. Whatever comfort zone has been holding you hostage, step out of it. Whatever voice has been whispering in your ear that you can't do it, silence it. Because, my friend, you can trust God. You can take the next step. You can step into the new with confidence because God is already ahead of you, making a way where there was no way. Let's take a deep breath because, listen, I feel the fire of the Spirit, and I hope you feel the fire stirring in your spirit today because this is your moment. This week, I challenge you. Do something bold. Do something that stretches your faith. Take a step, even if it's a small step, toward what God is calling for you to do. Write it down. Speak it out loud. Declare it, and then act on it. And don't keep this to yourself. Share this episode with a friend. Share it with somebody who you know needs to hear this message. Encourage someone else to step boldly into what God is doing in their life. And of course, let me ask you to follow us and subscribe if you're on YouTube so you'll never miss an episode because we are just getting started on this journey of transformation. And so I want to say to you until next time, be bold, be fearless, and trust that God, who makes rivers in the desert, is already making a way for you. I believe that. Now go live like you believe it too. Be blessed, my friends, and I'll see you next time. Until then, keep your head to the sky. Bye bye.